This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, fairies, welcome back to another episode of Fantology. I'm your host, Jake, today, and I am here with my lifelong love, Emily, and friend Ryan and Sydney. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Sydney's my lifelong love.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know, lifelong love. We haven't known each other our whole lives.
But you are my, I don't know. We usually say lifelong friends.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought it was a reference to the book. Like
no, it was a Fantology reference.
Oh.
Yeah.
If you guys
Anyways.
listen to our podcast, you might have gotten it.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
I listen to it sometimes.
Yeah.
For the listeners, our wives don't even listen to us, so
We don't read the
really
same books.
appreciate your support.
You can really
Second time on the podcast.
you can tell how much support we need, if not even our dearest ones. No,
There's
go ahead, Ryan.
Not much household support.
Yeah. Today we'll be reviewing book 1 of A Court of Thorn and Roses, which is titled A Court of Thorn and Roses. This is kind of a special couples episode, which I haven't been part of before. Have we done one before? I know you have been on before.
Sydney and I have been on an episode together
It wasn't
before.
a couples one though.
It was not a couples episode, but we did discuss Mistborn, the first
Right.
book of the Final Empire, and that was probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah. Well, this is even more special then because it's double couples. So, so we're reviewing A Court of Thorn and Roses. How did this start? Whose idea was this? Was this Sydney? Were you
Mine.
were you the driving force behind
It's
this?
a very Sydney idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so I think Emily had tried to read it before, so she was the first
Did you?
one to attempt to read it.
Yeah, I had like an ebook version when it was really cheap that I bought, and then didn't really get into it. And then Sydney started reading it and told me to read it. And
What
that
got
made
you
me
into
read
it?
Sydney telling me to.
Oh, but first for the ebook.
I think I just came across
Just
it.
came across
I
it.
don't know. Yeah.
I saw a
Um,
lot of people talking about it on Instagram. Everyone was
Yeah.
like raving about it. I feel like it's becoming really popular.
Mhm.
And there's one girl I follow who is not into fantasy, and she was recommending, she's like, I don't like fantasy, but I like this book. So that gave me some comfort knowing that I might like it.
I've heard a lot of people say that, like a lot of women say that.
Yeah. Like you don't have to be into fantasy to like this book.
Mhm.
I think that's a good way to frame this whole thing. Just that this is a little unusual that it's unusual in that this isn't a book that either of you would have probably typically have read, right?
Yeah.
But you have, and it's kind of this intersection of like fantasy and romance. I think I would say it's a romance novel first and a fantasy novel second. That's kind of how I view it, but
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of do a little bit of like no spoilers in the beginning, and then we can dive into spoilers when we really start to get into what we liked about it and didn't like. But to begin, so the book is like, I guess we can just go over like what are our general opinions on it? What are your guys' takeaways? Just like general feelings. I don't know, maybe rate it out of 10 or highlights from it.
Give any spoilers
Well,
away.
well,
Yeah, no spoilers,
okay,
no spoilers.
I know.
So we're in
I
a
guess-
dangerous territory because Sid has read
I know.
through book
yeah.
2, right?
Yeah.
And you've started
guess-
book 2.
Mhm.
I can start out and just kind of show Sydney and Emily maybe a bit of how we would discuss this in a spoiler-free segment.
Okay.
And then we can, Sydney can go after me, and then Emily, and then Jake can finish up. I think that this was maybe not the strongest fantasy book I've read, or it wasn't super interesting to me, but I had to push myself to get into it at first. It was kind of cheesy, the the beginning was a bit cheesy for me, and then as I got more into it, I was able to set aside some of that, my instinctual reaction to it, and delve further into the series, or further into the book. And I definitely was entertained by it later on in the book. But I mean, I don't know if without any interest from, Sydney, I don't know if I would continue this series on my own.
But you're going to, right?
But I will. I definitely will continue it because it's fun reading with you, Sydney. So I think I would probably give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Ryan told me
Rebuttal.
before we started, he said, "You can't be upset if there's any negative things said about her."
She can't take
He's
it
just gonna walk
personally.
Yeah, I can't take it personally. Well, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, I would probably rate it an 8 out of 10. I have to save room for the next books. But yeah, I feel like a lot of, well, okay, I've only read one other fantasy book, which was Mistborn. But I feel like the parts that don't really get me like into a book are just like lots of fighting scenes and someone else is fighting someone else, and I just like, it's so boring and it's hard for me to like stay in the plot. But I liked how this one had less of that and more of like the romance, more of the storyline, more of the character development.
Okay, but you liked Mistborn.
No, I did, but I liked this one more. Like, I liked that this one had more of just like the storyline, and I didn't have to keep track of who was fighting who and who was winning and what team. I don't know. It was a lot easier to keep
There
track
was more
of
like
everything.
intrigue, right?
Yeah.
So the action was more like social versus just fighting.
Yeah, it was kind of more like Bridgerton vibes pulling into fantasy,
Yeah.
like a lot of more of the social stuff.
Yeah.
And so you read it primarily for those vibes and what romance is in the book as well.
Yeah, like the girl I followed on Instagram, she like, I've read a lot of books that she's recommended and I really liked them, so I trusted her opinion, and she was like, don't let the cover of the book like sway you, because
Isn't the cover just words though?
it's just very fantasy looking.
Okay.
It's not like your typical like, oh, this is a fun little contemporary romance. So it's not a book that I would pick up on a bookshelf and be like, oh, this looks fun.
Well, it's
So
funny
anyways.
that you and Ryan both kind of feel that way, but for opposite reasons. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't pick it up on your own, but
Yeah.
That's funny.
okay, my turn.
Yeah.
One thing that I really liked about this, and it was just situational, is that I didn't know anything going into it. And there's kind of we could talk about it in the spoiler section, but there's like a really standard way that people describe this book. And I had none of that going into it. And so it was fun to just kind of discover it as I went along, and then to kind of realize like, oh, this is like XYZ. And I liked that element of it. What else? I liked the romance. I thought that I don't read a lot of romance, and so that was something that was kind of new to me. And I thought that there was kind of a gradual build that I really enjoyed with their relationship developing. I've heard people really dislike that and felt like it was like fake or insincere or something, but I felt like it built up really well, and I saw the development happen. And so I thought that it was a good story.
Emily, why did you stop reading it the first time?
Because it was just a girl in the trees, and she was cold and sad, and it was like somebody had told me to read it and I wasn't that interested and wasn't that
And
invested.
she didn't trust the person who told her.
And then when Sydney told me to read it, I was much more interested because we are good friends. I don't know.
That's it. I think that's a huge thing. Like,
yeah.
Different media you consume is so influenced by like other people's opinions on it, right? Like, you can I know, I feel like that happens with TV shows a lot with me. Like I'll start something, not really be into it, but then have someone who I trust, whose opinion I generally like, will say like, oh no, you need to keep going, and then you'll get into it. And most of the time, like I'm happy I've done that.
Mhm.
I'm trying not to look this way so the
I know, I
mic
keep
picks it
looking
up,
at
but so
One thing with
yeah.
that though too, that's just kind of it's cool that like to be friends with people or married to somebody who likes to read, because you can kind of share that, and we all have our own interests. And even the Fantology guys, like you guys probably all kind of have your little like niche that you prefer certain types of books or different styles, but it's fun to talk about it and make those recommendations, because then you come across something new. Like I've read a lot of things that I never would have read that you had recommended.
yeah, and it's a fun way to get your interest horizons broadened a little bit. Yeah. So it seems like you enjoyed the book more so than Ryan. How would you rate it out of 10? Just numbers don't really mean anything, but what gut?
I was thinking 6.
6,
but I don't know.
that's the other
I was
thing.
thinking 6.
Like a 6 out of 10 to one person can mean something completely different. That's why the numbers don't really mean anything.
Yeah, Josh considers the rating system a 5 he would give to an average book.
That's what
So-
I do too. And Jake
All right.
says a 5 is like, a 4 is bad.
5 is neutral. Like 5 is like nothing about this is like I didn't enjoy it, but it wasn't bad enough for me to like be annoyed that I had to consume it. Whereas like 1 is the worst it could be, and 10 is the best it could be. Anyway, that's kind of how I view it. And Sydney, what about you? Out of 10, you didn't really give it a.
She
She
said
said
eight.
8.
Oh, did you
I
say
said
8?
8. Yeah.
8? Okay.
I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really read a lot of fantasy, so I'm kind of like putting it in its own genre. I feel like it's like an 8 out of 10 in the fantasy genre. Obviously, there's
Yeah.
other books that are like
Yeah.
that I like
Yeah.
more that are also 8s or whatever. But
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like the context of it too. Like, what is it trying to? Is it succeeding at its like purpose?
Yeah.
For me, I'd say I was pleasantly surprised at a lot of it. The book starts out with some tropes that are kind of unrealistic, and I was like, really, this is how you're setting up the whole like drama of this story? That later on I was pleasantly surprised to find like, oh, that was like plot important, why it seemed so kind of overdone in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like things seemed unrealistic, and then you realize, oh, that's all part of someone's plan, which is why like it happened that way. It made more sense, which I thought was refreshing. I wasn't quite as enthralled with the romance as I think maybe Emily or Sydney was, but I will say, to their point, like it was like orders of magnitude greater in realism when it comes to romance compared to something like The Wheel of Time, which is more what you see in fantasy, where it's like, oh, I meet somebody I'm attracted to, and then they're in danger, and now we're in love, obviously.
Mhm.
Whereas this one had like more time for the people to get to know each other and like kind of build that relationship more naturally. With the caveat of, I will say, like, it felt like every interaction was like unnecessarily laden with sexual tension. But I get it.
they're fairies.
It sells. They're fairies.
He's
Yeah.
really hot.
Not the
Yeah.
main
She can't
character.
help it.
Yeah. I think I would say, yeah, like a 6 out of 10 as well. I do think more on the critical side, I think some of the pacing was off with the storytelling, and I think some things weren't really fleshed out well enough in terms of like motivations or just plot points. It seemed a little like, okay, this is happening now because the plot needs it. But I will say, like, I enjoyed it. It was a quick read, and it was like I was listening to it, and I think we were like doing chores one day when I was listening to it, and like I was excited to get in the zone to read it through it. So yeah.
Sydney laughed when you said that it's a quick read, because for her, this book
Longer.
is like very, very long. Like, I mean, for reference, we listened to the audiobook, which is, I think, like what,
24 hours, I think.
the first one is 24 hours.
It's something like that. Yeah.
For Sydney,
That
most
seems
of
long. I
most
feel
of
like
the
most of the books
books
are like
you
10 or
yeah
12.
you read are 10. Yeah. which I mean, and a lot of books that I and Jake read, and maybe Emily's read some of these, but they're epic fantasy, like they can easily get into the 30 and 40 hours.
How long was Mistborn? Was this one shorter or longer?
That's
I'm not
this one's like
sure.
30-ish hours, I think, 30 or 40.
Okay.
Maybe not that. I don't know.
I'd say it's maybe a little longer, but not too much.
But I
Takes
do
a
feel like it
little
was
bit. Yeah,
easy
fact
to
check.
read.
That's what I meant by a quick
Yeah.
read. I didn't mean necessarily like the speed, but like
Yeah,
it.
it flows easily
Yeah.
and like.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I liked about it, because I feel like the other fantasy book that I read, like I feel like I had to really be paying attention to like everything going on to like read it. But I feel like this one I could just like have it playing in my car while I'm driving, and it was just easy to listen to, easy to follow on the story. It didn't take a lot of like, I don't know, like mental work to like stay in.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Mistborn, I was like, I have to focus.
Well, and in Brandon Sanderson books or Wheel of Time or all of those, there are so many characters. And in this
Yeah.
one, there were like basically 4 main characters and then like a few side characters.
And
So
a
yeah, it's
single
lot easier.
viewpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not switching like to a totally different storyline and having to remember what happened chapters ago.
Yeah. Mistborn is 24 hours and 39 minutes. So they're kind of comparable. But this one
Yeah.
did feel like
It went
was-
faster.
it was faster. Yeah.
I was always excited to like turn it on and like hear what happened next.
Yeah.
I love that feeling, reading a book
I
and just
know.
being like, what's gonna happen?
So I think that can kind of wrap up our like non-spoiler part of it, you know, like if you guys haven't read it, hopefully we have convinced you to read it, or not. If you're like, yeah, I know for sure this is not my thing, then you can skip it, but it was fun to read. And honestly, for me, part of the big enjoyment was knowing that like us 4 were reading it and hearing like Sydney was ahead of us the whole time. And you're like, you gotta hurry up and finish this. You gotta get on to the second one. Like the hype was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into spoiler territory. We can talk about like specific parts of the book you liked or disliked, scenes that stuck out. One thing I wanted to kind of ask is, even though this book had like one main point of view, was there a specific character you connected with or like related to the most? And I think so, like as guys, it was less so the main character for me. I guess I'll start with it. Man, I'm so bad at names. Who is the guy who is missing an eye? Like his best friend?
Oh,
Woof.
starts with an L. It was
I want to say Ryson, but that is not him. I feel like Ryson and this guy are like polar opposites almost, but
no, go.
Lancelot, something like that. Man, this is
Lucian.
Lucian. Yeah,
Yeah.
losing my cred. I thought I liked him. I liked how he was like, I feel like I related to him, but kind of feeling like not super involved in like the love story of it. And so he's kind of like this third party guy. And
And he's
I don't
like
know.
a friend to her the whole time.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Although I thought early on, I was so sure that he had like nefarious
Yeah.
motives, like sending her out into the woods, and which I guess he kind of did, because I don't know, kind of like testing her, I guess,
Yeah.
with falling in love with Tamlin.
Tamlin.
I don't know.
How about you, Emily? Who did you relate to the
I
most?
mean the main character
Feyre?
for sure. Yeah, Feyre. I was thinking toward the end when that kind of like second act of the book where she's in the underground kingdom place, not kingdom, but like underground place. All of the like tension and like she's trying to protect people and all of those feelings. It took me back to Ella Enchanted, which is a book that I loved growing up, and probably the first, and maybe read Harry Potter before that, I don't know, but around that same time. And it's kind of similar, like a romance mixed with fantasy. And it reminded me of that, and it's kind of those like same feelings that I had as a kid reading that, which I really liked. I thought that was fun, and I loved the character in Ellen Ella Enchanted. It made me want to go back and read that again.
Nice, Ryan or Sid?
I feel like I obviously was similar, like relating to Farah. That's the other thing I liked was that it was like from a girl's perspective, which kind of made getting into it easier because it was like a very easy, like relatable character from the beginning, like starting out with her sisters. And I feel like they did a lot of kind of character development with her family, like kind of getting to know the family dynamics. And so it was easy to be like, oh, I can totally picture myself being this girl. I mean, not exactly, obviously, because I'm not in that in that time or whatever, but not hunting in the woods. But yeah.
I think I would probably agree with Jake. I don't relate so much to the unbearably handsome, powerful, you know, hero who
High
is,
Fae Lord.
yeah, the High Fae Lord. Maybe a bit more of like the supporting character who, you know, has had trouble in his past. And I think Lucian's an interesting character. But one character who really surprised me was the older sister.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, but it starts off, you kind of just think she's sort of like the evil stepsister, like in Cinderella. And but she really like, she kind of becomes humanized when Feyre goes back and visits her family, or yeah, when she initially returns from Prithia and sees her sisters and learns more about why her older sister has kind of resented her. And um, I think it was mainly because of how their father treated Feyre versus her.
Mhm.
And so that was pretty interesting, and I hope that they explore that relationship a bit more in further books, because at the beginning of the book, I'll admit that the family dynamic wasn't too interesting to me, with Feyre kind of like, you know, taking on the role of caretaker, and her father, I guess maybe a little bit, her father wasn't like, he was just not doing well, and
Yeah.
wouldn't really protect his daughters. But I was pleasantly surprised later on with her older sister.
Yeah, I liked that part where they went back and you did get to see more of their relationship. And I agree. I my only complaint with that part was I wish there was more there. I felt like she goes back and then almost immediately turns back around. Although I did kind of get Lion King vibes when Simba's going back to Pride Rock after being an adult. You know what I'm talking about? Like he sees his dad in the sky, and then there's like that epic scene of him like running through the savannah. That's kind of the vibes I got when she left her home again to go back to rescue Tamlin. But yeah, I do hope that, like, you get to see more of the sister interactions in future books. What's up with the dad? I feel like it was never clear, like, was he just like a defeated person, or was he just like not a good father? Like, what was he? What was happening?
Yeah, I feel like he just kind of like, after they lost their fortune, he just kind of didn't know what to do. I feel like it took a hit on his ego and stuff. But I feel like that also brings in what this book has been related to a lot, is like the Beauty and the Beast vibe. I feel like it's
For
really
sure.
similar to like Belle and her dad. Her dad's, you know, just like a crazy inventor and, you know, kind of does his own thing. I feel like Farrah's dad is kind of similar, of just he's in his own little world and isn't really watching out for the needs of his kids. And then obviously that narrative goes throughout a lot of the book too.
I didn't think about that aspect of like the dad in Beauty and the Beast. That's really interesting. I'm sure that was the point that she was trying to make. I was gonna say with the sisters, to me early on, I was like, oh, we're definitely gonna come back to them. They're definitely gonna change. Like, it just felt like so tropey to me. And did you guys feel that too, or were you surprised that they went back and kind of saw the other side of the one sister?
Well, I mean, I was surprised.
I don't want to say anything because I've read the second book. So.
Yeah, we're really
Not too
hoping
much.
Sydney's doing a great job so far. We're really hoping she doesn't spoil anything.
You can't tell us what you thought about it when you read the first book.
I mean, I enjoyed, like, the beginning part was like, I enjoyed hearing about the families, but there wasn't anything like it did seem like a little more bland, you know?
I bet when they went back to the first.
Well, I was shocked
time,
that
you were just like, get back to Tamlin, get back to Tamlin.
Yeah. I was like, can you see Tamlin loves you? Go back. But it was cool to see like Nessa, who like you saw that like, oh, she actually does like her other sister. Like she didn't just like, oh, cool, we have this whole huge house now, we're fine.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess to kind of move things along, so that I feel like I talked about earlier, my biggest critique was mainly the pacing. I feel like the pacing like kind of drastically changes. You have like really long parts in the beginning where it's like her just at Tamlin's court and kind of getting
Walking through the roses.
yeah. Yeah, it like basically walking around everywhere and like getting little glimpses of the world and like what's going on. And I wish that was kind of like that was a little faster. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're done with Twilight, or yeah, a little bit of Twilight, but we're done with Beauty and the Beast, and now it's Hunger Games. We're in these like challenges, these battles. I don't know. I felt like that pace. It was like almost 2 books in one.
Mhm.
But
I remember looking, like they went to that underground mountain place and there were only like 300 pages left or something. And I was like, so much, it feels like so much has to happen and they're barely going to this new place. And then so much happens in those 300 pages compared to the like 600 before that or something.
yeah, I feel like as soon as they go underground, you're like, okay, there's gonna be 3 challenges or whatever. You're like, oh my goodness, this is like back to back to back.
Mhm.
yeah,
Which made it fun. Like it was really fun to listen to. But yeah, I agree. Like I feel like a lot of the first part could have been condensed to kind of keep that momentum going the whole time.
I don't know if it could have been condensed because I think that they really needed to show, like they needed to
character
develop the
development, yeah.
relationship. I think it would have been weird if she had gone any quicker from like loathing Tamlin to loving him. I think they needed quite a bit of time. If anything, they probably should have, well, I don't know, maybe the last part would have been better, either split, like find some sort of climax within the trials and then end the trials in the next book. That might be strange though as well, because that part seemed a little rushed to me. I mean, I don't know, it was like the latter half of the book didn't really feel like the beginning half of the book.
yeah. They could have maybe done just one trial, or or something, or like one extended trial. I don't know. I also felt like they were like they didn't really flow well. Like there's like battling the worm thing. That was the second one, right? What was the first
No,
one?
that was the first. I don't even
That was
remember
the
what the
first?
second one was.
There was the one where
Oh, she was like in like a cave and she had to like hit the right. There were like
Oh,
4
right.
numbers or something. She
Yeah.
like hit the
And she
right
couldn't
one.
read it?
Yeah.
And Reese told her which one. Yeah.
Yeah, because she doesn't know how to read.
Mhm.
Yeah. Going
Yeah.
back to Ryan's point about like the character development, I did really like how it wasn't just like a perfect romance. It wasn't like, oh, I hate Tamlin, and then by the end I love him and I'm gonna stay here. Like I feel like it was nice that it wasn't just like, I don't know, that there was like, oh, she's leaving him, and there was that like little bit of suspense of like, why is she leaving him? And then her going back and like fighting for him. It
Yeah.
wasn't as like of a simple romance.
Yeah, a little more nuanced.
Mhm.
Since we kind of compared it to Mistborn earlier, how could the romance in Mistborn have been enhanced and like better?
Well,
Like-
I don't know. Are we getting into spoilers for Mistborn
I
now?
haven't read Mistborn.
I don't
That's
even
true.
remember Mistborn.
Okay, well, I
That has
just
to be
been a
different
couple
episode.
years.
okay. I was gonna say, I feel like if there's a little more world building here in terms of fantasy, I would have enjoyed it more. And yeah, I'm just like, nothing about the romance was a detracting factor at all. For those who aren't really romance novel readers but are into fantasy, I don't think there's anything about the romance of the book that detracted from it, other than just how kind of like there's some like cheesier moments with it, or things that are a little more like unrealistic with it. But I think if you've read any fantasy books with romance in there, like you've already signed up for that. So I don't think any of that was like a detracting factor.
Well, and I feel like every romance book is like that too. You're like, okay, this isn't
Yeah.
100% accurate, but it's fun to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was Tamlin was a little bit like such a, you know, like a desirable person, right? The more you get to know him, it's like almost the more perfect he seems. He's like falls in love with her, but he like doesn't want to make her fall in love with him. And I don't know. It seemed he seemed like so dreamy, I guess.
Yeah, he even got Ryan and I
She likes it.
yeah. No, and yeah, going off of that, I feel like even before she was supposed to have felt like attracted to him or liked him, like any sort of emotional connection or physical connection, every time he's described in her mind, it's always described in like these like this like primal, like I don't know, like wow, like she's like always awestruck by how like primally handsome he is.
She's
even
never
though
met a fairy before.
I know, but it's like you're laying on like she should be. It would have been cool to see just like a more neutral, if not like antagonistic view of him and her mind's description of him, and then how that slowly transitions to like, oh no, I'm actually into him. You know, like instead of just right from the get-go, it's like, okay, you can tell she's feeling it. Like she should not be feeling it right now. She just got kidnapped and she's already like, oh yeah, look at those
But none of us
powerful
have met a
claws.
Is that Stockholm syndrome? What is that called?
Yeah.
When you fall in love with your captor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. But
I thought that Reese was just, when he was introduced, I was like, oh my gosh, they're just setting up this love triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is just like a piece of and we all know that she's gonna choose Tamlin in the end. You know, he's the Jacob of this book.
I
And
don't feel like she is.
You don't think so?
No. I feel like it's gonna be
Is it gonna be like a Hunger Games love triangle situation?
I don't know about that, but I feel like it's gonna be I just feel like she's gonna find that she's more similar to someone else. And maybe it's not him, but I feel like with Tamlin, it's like too like simple first love. I don't know.
I'd be here for that, for some like mixing it up that way. But I mean, that's kind of how like Jacob and Edward were set up as well, right? Like Jacob and Bella were more similar, and like that's why they got along so well as friends. Whereas like Edward was just this perfect whatever.
So is it the PETA or the
Yeah.
Edward? Who's she gonna go for?
Yeah. I do like how they set up in the next book that she has to spend, what is it, a week a month, which is like an absurd amount
I
of
was
time.
pretty mad when Reese made that deal. I was mad when
Yeah.
like Reese like tattooed her and she realized like what the tattoo did. I mean, it saved her in the end in like the second trial because they can like communicate through it. But I was like, why do you need to have her 1 week a month? I was pretty annoyed by that.
could they communicate because of the tattoo? I just thought Reese had mind powers.
I think it's through the tattoo.
The tattoo was important for one of the tasks somehow.
Yeah, I think like she's able to like hear, because I think it's the second one. Like, yeah, she couldn't read, and whenever she would go to like press one of the buttons or whatever it was, she was hearing something in her mind or something like, no, don't do that one, or yes, that one. Or was it, I don't even know if it was like verbal or if it was just like a pain or
I think it was in her hand.
yeah, okay.
I could be wrong. Do you remember?
I
Yeah,
thought that she heard it.
Oh,
I thought so too, I can't remember. But there was some sort of
Uh-huh.
communication. But I think it's through the tattoo.
Yeah, I
Like,
do
it
think
did save her, but I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I thought at the part where she's like trapped or like in the jail cell type thing, and then Reese comes, he just seemed like so slimy and gross. And then Lucian came and talked to her, and I was like, maybe she should go with Lucian. He's nice. He's a good guy. But I don't maybe that'll happen. I feel like that probably won't happen. It looks like it's going to Reese.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
what Reese's motivations are for wanting her to spend a week with him a month, because it's not, it's not going to be as simple as like he just wants her to fall in love with him. He's probably got some ulterior motives.
I think he has ulterior motives that are more, I think it's like multi-layered. The first layer is just like, haha, I'm doing this because I'm evil. But then he has like an ulterior motive that like furthers some evil plan, but really it's like maybe he just has a crush on her.
I want to know what Sid is thinking.
We need to do a book two conversation so bad. I hope
He's
Yeah.
doing a really good,
things to
like,
say.
good job of just like having a blank face. I keep looking at you. I'm like,
Just
what
like,
should I do?
don't.
Yeah, I feel like poker face it. But predictions for book 2, I think we're really going to dive into like obviously the Reese relationship and like who he is and his plans and stuff. And
Oh, I have a comment.
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, remember how Tamlin like hadn't imprinted on anybody, or there was like something where he was supposed to like find his love at
Yeah.
midnight on Midsummer's Eve, or I don't remember the exact situation,
Yeah.
and that hadn't happened. I think at some point, maybe in the next book, maybe later, that he is going to find that person and it's not going to be her. I feel like it has kind of been set up for that. That's my prediction.
I'm trying to remember that, and all I'm getting is Twilight. So I'm really
It's
trying
like
to.
the, like crazy party night.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't go out there. It's because he's like looking for,
Yeah.
right? Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
like
he
was
primal
looking-
mode.
He's looking for the girl, and then they were gonna have some fun activities together and release the magic in the land.
Yeah. That's when I texted you guys. I was like, blood, sugar, sex, magic in this book. That's literally what they talk about. You guys did not get it.
I got it.
Yeah, Ryan got it. Yeah.
I was already on a book two.
So it's like, you don't even know.
One prediction, I don't think this is for book 2 necessarily, but I think further down the series, I'm really thinking her mom is not actually dead, and that she's in the Fae realm somewhere. She's
I
Faeing it
haven't
up.
even thought about her mom. What if her mom
Interesting.
is Amarantha? Just kidding.
No,
That wasn't the
Amarantha
thing.
hates mortals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot can happen.
I thought the
Big
riddle,
change.
when you guys
Oh,
heard
the
the riddle,
riddle.
did you instantly think, oh, it's love? It's gonna be
Yeah.
love. I
Yeah.
thought that too, and I was like, it can't be that obvious. And I was like, love makes sense. I was like, no, it can't. It wouldn't be that obvious.
I didn't even try to figure out the riddle. I was just listening to Farrah figure it out. I'm like, oh, she doesn't know it.
She doesn't
She's
know
never
it.
gonna
I
get
guess I don't know it.
I wasn't really trying to figure it out, but I was like, oh man, love kind of fits this. It would be a little much if it was love, and then it ended up to be love was the answer.
But would you be willing to like risk answering it if what was the like consequence if she didn't get the riddle right? Like she died, right?
She would fail the trials, and like
And die. I
everyone
think.
would.
Yeah, I
That's why
feel like I
think there
wouldn't
should-
risk trying the riddle.
That's why I think there should only been like one trial, because it's like she completed these 3 trials, and then there was the fine print of the agreement, and then so she had to solve the riddle. I think there should have been one extended trial, and then the riddle afterwards. Like, I don't know.
I thought the trials were fun though. I really enjoyed that part, like seeing, especially the worm one. It was gross, but I thought it was
Like I was like
exciting.
visualizing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seemed like creative. I don't know. I was really drawn into that part.
So
Should
better
we talk
action.
about the last trial?
Yeah,
That was surprising.
I was
when
shocked.
she actually like killed the people. I was like, what? Did she really
Yeah.
just do that?
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
when she realized that the third person was gonna be Tamlin, I was
Yeah.
like, I did not see that coming because we all thought that Tamlin was up there in the cage or whatever. But it made perfect sense. I was like, oh, that's an Amaranth thing to do. From everything we've heard about her, like that would be the twist that she
Yeah.
would do, you know?
I'm excited to see how they kind of hinted at this, that like she has like PTSD from what she had to do, and like how that's going to affect her relationship with Tamlin. It's probably going to push her towards Reese a little more.
Bad boy.
She's going to realize, I'm a bad girl. I got to be with the bad boy.
That girl.
Yeah, though I think Ryan, you just said this. I was so surprised that she actually stabbed the other 2.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, something is gonna happen, or she's gonna refuse to do it, or I was really shocked that she did it the first time and then did it again.
Yeah.
And then
Also, I thought that Stoneheart twist was not a good twist in my
Wait,
mind.
what twist?
Just that he has a heart of stone, and she's like, I remember the serving lady saying he has a heart of
Oh.
stone.
yeah, I
And,
didn't
like,
even remember that.
Literally, he has a heart of stone. That kind of
Yeah.
fell flat for me. But
Although it was like she knew that Amarantha really liked him and probably wouldn't let him be killed. So that was part of
Yeah.
it too.
I like
There
that
was like
aspect.
some like reasoning going on.
It was mainly just like I overheard this conversation. This was obviously a clue laid for me. Like, I didn't think that
Yeah.
made sense, but
You're gonna
Anyways.
stake your lover's life on this weird
yeah,
conspiracy theory you have.
yeah, seriously.
It's a bigger
Yeah.
risk than the riddle, I guess.
Well, anything else that you guys really wanted to talk about with this, or
Has everyone's ratings gone up to an 8 at least after
No.
chatting about it?
no?
I don't know. I haven't read the second book at all, but from other people's reactions or reviews, they said that like a lot of people aren't super impressed with the first book, but then they really like the second book.
Did you feel
So
that way, Sydney?
Yeah. And like I said, I'm going. Did I interrupt? Sorry.
Yeah,
no,
sorry.
go
Ryan.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying from the Instagram account that I follow that's recommending books.
Do you want
they
to
said
push
the
shout
same
out
thing.
for that account?
It's just like a girl, her name's Megan Livingston. I
Okay.
doubt she's listening to a Fantology podcast.
Oh, she'll hear about us from this.
Yeah.
We are big on Instagram.
But she said it, and like I have a couple friends who had read the series too. Like, oh, like the second book is my favorite. The second book is my favorite. So even if I wasn't like crazy about this book, I still probably would have read the second book because I knew that everyone was saying it was better. So, and I would agree that it is really good.
I have a huge list of books that I want to read right now. But I think these are ones that for sure, like I love things like Libby and Overdrive, where you can check out audiobooks and ebooks from the library. So I think I will continue to have these on hold and listen to them as they come in.
Yeah.
Podcast next week?
To it.
For book 2,
Next week.
Next week. Yeah. No.
Probably not that soon. I started the second book and then I was so busy this summer I couldn't finish it. I think I'm gonna have to restart it.
how far are you in? How far in are
Um,
you?
like 2 chapters, not far at all.
Okay, yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta keep going.
Also, I listened the first time I read it on the ebook and I was listening to it, and I don't know if it's the narrator or that I listened or read the first one like print copy, but I didn't really like listening to it for some reason. And I like listening to books. It wasn't, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to try to get an ebook version or check it out.
I will say, just to kind of end things from my perspective, you guys can keep going if you have more you want to talk about, but I feel like the hype around this series is that it's like super steamy and spicy. We have a friend, Eve, is she always one? Even Thomas, I think I always say like, oh yeah, it's spicy. And like, that was like what I was like, I don't know, geared up for. Like that was kind of the way it was
That's what
presented.
you're hoping for.
That was what I was hoping for, and no, but I feel like book 1 was not like at all in that sense. It was like the same as like Twilight, I think.
I think it's a little more
The
than
Twilight series, like
Okay, yeah.
um
I would agree. I also
Yeah.
had the impression that all these books are really spicy, so I was like, oh, maybe I like them. But I feel like it was definitely more fantasy than
yeah.
like romance spice than I thought, which I was
Yeah.
fine with. It was good.
Yeah, not that that's a good or bad thing, but just to give context for those who haven't read it, as we're already past the spoiler section.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I've heard book 2 gets more spicy, so
It starts out with a sex scene, doesn't it? I feel like that's the part I read.
With the
I was
banger.
gonna say-
Whoa, spoilers.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I
just
won't say
kidding.
anything else.
Sydney's already.
wait, starts out, is
I
it
came in
at
after chapter 2. I was like, Brian.
Is it Reese's?
Sorry, that was a spoiler. It really,
at
I think it's
Lucian's,
literally the
Jake.
first chapter.
Lucian's, nice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like 10 pages in.
Nice.
Wait, can somebody remind me what happens to Amarantha at the end of book 1?
She gets like torn apart, doesn't
Nice,
she?
yeah. I couldn't remember if that was book 1 or
by
book
Tamlin?
2. Yeah, they
But-
like killer.
But
Because
the
yeah,
looming danger is from like the other Fey kingdom, right?
yeah, like
She
Yeah.
I don't know what was like first book or second book, but
yeah.
She was
I
the
think go into more
general.
detail.
She was the general, and her father was the king.
Yeah, it's something like
Okay,
that.
yeah, if you already know that, yeah, she's like working for like the king or something.
And he's
So
like,
there's
yeah,
like a bigger threat.
One thing that I
Figure things
remember
out.
that I thought seemed significant is that she had the ring with the guy's eye,
yeah.
and that had disappeared, like in the like craziness after the
Oh,
last
I
trial
didn't-
or
Forgot
whatever it
about
was.
that.
I didn't
Yeah,
catch
notice
that.
and that seems significant to me. But
That was confusing to me because Lucian is missing an eye, but then there's this other story about a mortal who she steals his eye. So when I first saw that she had an eye in there, like, oh, that's Lucian's eye. Too many
Yeah, I
eye
thought
things.
the same thing.
Well, isn't like the tattoo that Reese gave her like an eye something too?
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, lots of eyes.
Yeah.
Well, I hope this is you guys have enjoyed us talking about this. We've enjoyed talking about it.
I was surprised I had so much to say. I didn't feel like I remembered the book very well, but it was fun to chat with you guys about it.
Yeah.
So book 2 in a little bit. We'll see. Yeah. All right.
If
thanks for
Sydney doesn't get too far in
I
the
haven't
future.
started book 3 yet, so I'm giving you guys time to catch up. I'm on to some other books.
Sydney's
should-
gonna start her own podcast.
Yeah, we should really have Sydney host these. What? Yeah, this should be like this is your series now on Fantology, Sydney. You're the host of the
Okay,
next
I'll
one.
do all the romance.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to check out A Court of Thorn and Roses if you haven't already. And if you have read it, we'll be continuing with what's the name of the second one? A Court of
Court of Mist and Fury.
Mist and Fury. Yeah. All right, guys. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all the socials. Join our Discord if you're interested. And yeah, we'll see you guys in
Should
the
we
next
start a
one.
Discord for the book too?
Oh yeah, we'll start a Discord channel for Court of Thorn and
Yeah.
Roses.
I'll join Discord for it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right, guys.
Sid and I will moderate it.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.